Hello, welcome back to Bear Cave Ranch.
Hello.
After a flurry of cleaning, apparently.
What?
A flurry of
Yes,
cleaning.
it tabled space.
Yes.
Tia, there's snow on the mountain range right over here.
So this is a video that we talked about doing several months ago and never did.
Do you see it?
And an online conversation
can't see it.
came up with some friends. And we decided to do the video today to address this. So
Yes.
this is about preparing for moving off grid.
We have a list
We
of
have a
stuff
list.
to go over.
Yes.
Because we had a list of stuff to do when we decided to make this adventure work and even decide to do it, I guess.
Yeah. So some of this comes from history.
Oh, you know what we should talk about?
What?
We should talk about even why we decided to do this, like our prepper stage.
Podcast.
Number 1. Okay. Podcast.
That's going to be our first. We're going to start a podcast, and we're one step ahead on our first episode, I think. Anyway, historically, you had the Homestead Act. And if you don't know, look it up, but basically you could get government surveyed land, and you had to work it for 5 years, and over 50% of the people didn't make it. They didn't survive because of harsh weather, land that couldn't be farmed like they expected. There's all kinds of problems. The infrastructure wasn't in place yet. In the early days, it was kind of starting to come along with
Literally
railroads.
everything that we faced so far.
Today we have different, though. We have the internet. We have the ability to just get and travel and things that they didn't have. So they were getting land. Hey, you live here and you're going to get land in Iowa. And they go out there and they're like, there's no irrigation. There's nothing.
Barren,
and
nothing.
and they failed. So today things are a little different, but we still see it. I found out about a young family with like a very small child, maybe toddler age, that bought property out here, not, just a couple miles from here.
I wouldn't even say a couple miles.
Yeah, maybe a mile.
I think it was probably like 1 or 2 streets down.
Yeah. They packed out and just kind of like us, they're like, hey, we have an RV, we're going to go out there and live. And then they got out here and they lasted a week.
Was it a week? I thought it was a day.
I think it was a week or 2.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't very long, but they booked it right out.
Canceled their payment, everything.
Yeah. So let's avoid that. So anything that we can do that would help you, we'll do that.
Yes.
So
So our first true number 1, because we came up with this after we were done with our list,
yes,
is to ensure, number 1, that everyone in your family who will be making this move to your land is okay with doing that move permanently. So we have our 13-year-old daughter that we spoke with and talked with and ensured that this was something that she would be willing to do. Because if not, then immediately that would have put our plans 5 years out, waiting for her to be the last one to move out, basically.
Yeah. Now, my personal belief is kids don't get to be the decision makers because they're kids. But your family, they have to be bought into the thing or it's not going to work. And it doesn't matter what that is.
Yeah, so it's not
Especially
just
something
kids,
like
but
this.
it was between, all 3 of us, really. I had kind of my own concerns with moving out here, making sure that we were all going to be doing stuff and making sure that everything was done, because back in the city, it would sometimes take months for
A project to get done.
this one right here to help
Fair.
me with a project that needed to be done, because, I'm 5'5" and not fucking 6'5" or 4, like this one over here.
Mm-hmm.
So things that were up high, I was not comfortable with doing, and sometimes it would take him a long time to do things. So that was one of my concerns, was to make sure that we would all be willing to get in there and get stuff done when it needed to be done, because we don't have months out here to do a project most of the time. We have a weekend, or what would be a weekend in the middle of the week, 1 to 2 days to get stuff done.
Right.
Building a goat pen, we can't take months to build a goat pen. We need to get the goat pen built so that we can get the goat on Monday.
Yep.
Sometimes it's 2 goats come up free and we need to go get them because they're free, and why not?
Exactly.
We don't have to put that initial investment on top of feeding in order to get the animals. And fortunately, that's happened a lot out here. So, number one, ensure that everyone who will be living with you is okay with doing this venture with you.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure everybody's on the same page.
Everyone is aware of what's happening. Tia had concerns. We talked with her and let her know most of what the concerns she had. We, educated her a little bit more, not just from our own, oh, it's going to be okay. We got online and we showed her, look, these people that live here, this is what they're saying, this is what they've been through. Other people that we know that live within the same type of area, sagebrush and whatnot, we had them kind of talk to her and say, hey, like, it's really not that bad.
Yeah.
So, and then we kind of had our own concerns that we just researched and made sure that, we were okay with that, which we'll get down into later. But.
Yeah. And most of that first step is coming up, I think, with a vision of here's what we expect things to look like and be like, and are we...
And what we want them to be like.
Right. Because originally,
but...
we wanted to live in the woods.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that.
Yep, we wanted to live in the mountains. And never, ever, ever, I can honestly say, in my entire life, have I ever wanted to live in the desert or the high desert. I always wanted to live in the mountains. I wanted to live in the forest. I wanted to live by a creek or a lake.
With magical pixies flying down, where the birds can help you get dressed in the morning.
I wanted to live in some mountains. Some legit mountains, not some rolling hills. But, things change. We also needed to have somewhere that we could afford.
Right.
So we had a list kind of what we could do. And from that, we knew we could do RV living, and that it would take quite a while, if ever, that we were going to build a permanent structure. Whether it be a cabin or a house or have a single wide trailer, whatever. The fact is, we decided that we were going to do RV living. We also wanted somewhere that was going to be somewhat close to town. I think within 30 minutes to 45 minutes is what we kind of decided on. So that we would have, a little bit, I guess, a little bit more access to the grocery stores and whatnot for the first year or two. And then also jobs if we needed to, fund this a little bit more than what our stockpile was, basically.
Medical facilities, especially having a kid, we felt like that was important.
Especially a kid with asthma, we need to make sure that we do have access to, stuff that if something goes down, we need to be able to get her in and whatnot. Animals and a garden, we wanted to make sure that the land that we were moving to would allow for the animals that we wanted, because where we lived at before, on a half acre, I think you could have 2 goats, 2 rabbits.
Yeah, you could have 2 rabbits,
10
which means you
chickens.
can't
Like 10
breed
chickens
rabbits.
is a lot, honestly, for the city. But the fact is, we wanted a lot more than all that. We wanted to have goats. We wanted to have chickens. We wanted to have rabbits. We wanted to have a whole slew of things. Then we wouldn't have been able to have that in the city. And then the garden, we want a larger garden. We want to be able to have either a year-round garden or a garden that produces enough food that will last us year-round through canning or, what's the other word? Preservation?
Preserving.
Yes. Okay. Kids and custody agreements or arrangements. We want to make sure that we were close enough within 10 hours of where we were previously living, so that we would be able to go and visit family, visit the kids, still keep up with, um, our custody arrangement with Tia and her dad. Um, Options for utilities. We, we decided that we wanted to do completely off grid and not be tapped into the grid at all whatsoever. You may decide that you want to have an option for power eventually in the future, and we don't want that ever. Right. We don't have to worry about our power going out. I mean, kind of we do with the battery bank that we have right now.
But we have a way to fix it, so.
Yes. So utility options, we didn't really want any, but if that's what you want, then, you got to make a list of what you want, basically. Another thing was schooling. So whether it's going to be homeschooling or schooling with, the public, or if there's just a little town school, if your kids are going to be going to that, that's a thing. If you're going to be moving somewhere, you want to make sure that you have a school plan in place, because while most states do not go, to the extreme that maybe California does, they still require some type of paperwork to be filed with the school district or the local school district stating that you're going to be homeschooling your kids. Yeah. So because of that, we wanted to stay in the West, and we wanted to be within 10 hours of where we had previously lived in Caldwell. So we had quite a few options, I would say, for states and land to look at.
Yeah, so then, since we knew that was kind of our area, we started looking in there, and immediately we crossed Oregon off the list.
California. We crossed California off.
Oh yeah, California, Oregon, and Washington. They had the mountainous terrains that we would like, but their laws just aren't friendly, and we'll get into
We knew,
that
number one, their gun laws weren't friendly.
Right.
But what we most wanted to... We made the list, which basically surrounded Idaho. Idaho was number one because we already lived in Idaho.
Mm-hmm. And we love the state.
Montana was number two. And, we knew Washington, Oregon, California was out. We also looked in Wyoming, Nevada, and Utah. So that was our list of states that we were willing to live in. And then we started looking at the laws. So Idaho, number one, land there was too expensive for us to buy for the amount of land that we wanted. Yep. You can find it cheap, it's just we weren't finding it cheap.
Well, and there's the balance. You can find it cheap, but it's more than that 45 minutes away from a town. Or a lot of it's landlocked, we don't really have access into it.
Or in the mountains, it's very steep land, so it would be a long time before you would even be able to get, like an RV on it or anything.
Right.
So Montana, we looked at next. Their homeschooling laws immediately put them out.
Yes.
Their homeschooling laws are fairly on par with California, to the point that they can come in and require vaccine documentation and everything. And I don't understand why. I mean, my kid isn't going to be going to a public school. They're not going to be part of a public school, so I don't really understand why you need to see the vaccination documents from my kid. I do personally vaccinate.
Yeah, we're not anti-vaxxers, but I have a problem with the requirements.
I don't see why that would be a requirement as a homeschool child. Now, if I was going to change my mind and decide that my kid needed to be in a public school, I can see why you would want to see that documentation then, but it doesn't matter before then, basically. So that put Montana out. So then what we did was looked at homeschool laws in Utah and Nevada.
And Wyoming.
And Wyoming, yep. In all three of those states, they were all good. We were okay with the homeschool laws there. Then we looked at gun laws, and I think we were good with the gun laws in all three of those states. Yeah. Really, what I guess made us decide to choose Nevada out of our list would be probably the next few laws that we looked at. property development laws. Some states have laws that you have to develop your property so quickly. Some of them are, you have to get a permit within 2 weeks. Some of them are within 6 months. You need to have a permit in place or some type of structure. Some are 18 months. That also comes with trailer living laws. So our county that we live in, we can live in trailers for years.
Yeah, they don't care.
However, the next county over, it's a 2-week period, and then you have to have a permit in place, and we're not ready to build. I don't know if we ever are going to build, but what I do know is that we have the option if we choose to. We also have the option to not do that if we choose to.
If you notice we're huddled, it's kind of chilly.
It is. It's cold. I'll turn on the heat real quick. I think it's on the lowest setting. Yeah. And then we also looked at other off-grid friendliness laws. So there are some places that charge like a surcharge tax or something for having like solar power, which Nevada is one of them, but I think it's 3% of like your property taxes.
Yeah.
It's not much.
Which is less than $3.
Yeah, because it would be less than that. It's $25 per tax. Or per acre.
Right.
Something or per
right.
Whatever. Yeah. Anyways, it's not much for Nevada. We found a great deal in Wyoming.
We did.
40 acres for $12,000. However, upon researching it, there's no promised legal access, number one. Number two, so you may not even be able to access your land legally.
Or you have to
or
talk
you have to
go
through other people to get to it.
And if you look on the map, and this is something we found out, there are roads. In fact, there's a road going like right along our property, but those roads are owned and controlled by, they're not public roads, they're not legal roads, they're private roads.
Oh, they were utility. It was the oil and the gas.
Like the natural gas companies and stuff that are working out there. So they can close those roads off at any time.
Yep. Is that Jingo?
Yeah, it's one of the dogs. And then also think about things like your water. In that same area, if you did a lot of research, well depth could be 500 plus feet.
And it was very rocky terrain.
Very
it was
rocky.
Red Rock Desert, I think is what they called it.
Desert.
Yeah.
So it would be 40, 50 grand to get a well put in, which it's less than that here.
That would be just to like drill it.
Yeah, just to drill it.
Yeah.
And because it was so far, it was also over an hour on these dirt roads to the nearest town. So it was a little bit outside. It was like an hour and a half,
which of course the Google Maps or whatever doesn't account for like driving on dirt roads.
Yeah.
So you're going to be driving, 20, 25, maybe 30, depending on how well the road is.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden your hour and a half could very well become 3 hours to get into town.
Yeah, so
which is, damn near a full tank of gas in our trucks.
Versus what we ended up with here, we still knew we weren't going to have the money or the means to get a well put in. But
if we ever do, it's much more attainable.
We're within...
It's 100 to 250 feet.
Yeah, but we're within like 10 minutes or less. Now we've got other water sources, but even initially we're within 10 minutes of getting to where we could fill up water and haul it versus that 3 hours to go get water.
Right. Yep. So other off-grid friendliness, that's kind of what, we were looking for was, water options and stuff where the land in Wyoming, it didn't really look like water was going to be a close option to have. It didn't look, on maps and stuff, it didn't look like there was a close lake or a river or any of that stuff. So we kind of crossed it off just due to the access of it and, how far it was from town and that kind of thing.
And it was the outer edge of the 10-hour limit that we wanted to stay.
Yeah, it was like 10 and a half hours, I believe.
So...
and then, of course, we also know Wyoming sometimes can get battered pretty hard in the winter.
No, it's up in this area. So.
Well,
So
I'd
I
say
keep
probably
hearing.
Wyoming a little bit more.
Yeah, more
I've
so.
heard of them getting like 10 feet of snow, and I'm pretty good not getting 10 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And then we also looked at hunting laws. To be able to be self-sustainable, but also just not, be so dependent on grocery stores, at least through the fall and the winter time.
Yeah.
That if we do decide that we're going to get a deer or an antelope or an elk or something, we can do that and have fresh meat and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So those were kind of some of the laws that we looked into, while also narrowing down our list of where to purchase our land and where to look. So recap: homeschool, guns, property development, trailer living laws, other off-grid friendliness, and hunting laws. Those are things that we looked into, pretty much based on that list down. Homeschool being number one. Homeschool was a priority for us. Might not be for you. Guns might be. Property development might be. I don't know. But homeschool was number one for us. So while looking for land, basically that put us between Nevada and Utah.
Well, initially Wyoming too. The land
Well,
we
yeah,
found
but
didn't work. So.
Back into the laws, you need to look at state, county, and local laws.
Yes.
The counties, both, well, the one that we looked at in Wyoming, we actually found the information on the county website. They had a little pamphlet that you could download, basically, that gave all the information about the well, about the legal access, about everything, really.
As we found, a lot of the rural counties and a lot of the states actually do have a page that's kind of a, before you buy land here, here's all the stuff you should know.
This is what you need to know. Here specifically, they state that medical services, emergency services, will not be able to get to you quickly in an emergency. If you have someone break into your property, you have the right to defend your property.
Right. And you have to. There's...
Yeah, we can call the police, but we're going to be looking at 30, 40 minutes, maybe even an hour before the police get out here.
Mm-hmm.
A big reason for that is because the area that we live in, it's rural, it's huge, and there's no road signs out here where we live. Past the main part of town, no one knows the street names. Even the people that live out here, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that's what that road was called."
Right.
Like you literally live here.
There's like four
and
roads
have been
that
for
people
20
know,
years.
and otherwise it's, hey, you know that corner and there's like an old recliner and a microwave sitting there? Oh yeah, I know where that is.
Yep. Those are our street directions. You turn by the gray recliner and there's a microwave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it works. It's
fun.
Yeah. To the point where UPS argued with us and said that street doesn't exist. Well, here's the letter from the county where they gave us an address. We had no address on our property.
Yep.
We had to have it assigned. And they still can't manage to deliver out here.
Right.
Even though we watched them drive up the hill over here.
2 streets over,
mind you. But they believe that our road doesn't exist.
Yep.
They asked us to hand draw them a map. We did. They still can't find it. So.
Which is fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
So look at, the state, county, local laws. Look at the pages. Tons of information that they put out there. And,
I researched the actual sheriff, the sheriff that was elected, just because I wanted to know how he felt about things. Because statewide, the gun laws in Nevada are actually starting to get kind of crappy. But the sheriff is who I'm more concerned about, because that's who's going to be enforcing those laws. And he, won't enforce like red flag laws or some of the other stupid stuff that's coming out, which is pretty important, just because living off grid and rural, we have possibility of intruders, we have predators, coyotes,
badgers.
an occasional mountain lion that comes down.
Crows.
We've heard, yeah, crows. So we want to be able to hunt. We want to be able to protect ourselves. That was important.
Crows are his predator.
And I checked the county for 3 months. Like every day, I was checking the county jail.
Oh yeah,
just to see the arrest. I wanted
record.
to see what type of crimes were happening in this area, what was real common, and things like that. So
a lot of it is controlled substance.
Yes.
Which is not surprising in an area like this.
True.
Yeah. So, yeah, just, I mean, kind of look into stuff like that and see. When we were looking for land, we had pros that we wanted. We had cons that we didn't want but could work with. We had, some of the pros were, like we said, closer to town, the ability to have animals and a garden, the schooling, that kind of stuff, being able to live in trailers.
Yeah, we actually found a really good lot that was the right price, and we crossed it real quick off the list. It was actually even, I think, closer, because it was like in the lad, so it was even closer to the kids that are in Utah or somewhere in eastern Idaho. It would have kept us in Idaho, but there was like a main highway road that went right through it.
What?
Yeah, in fact.
Hey, look, there's a crow.
Son of a gun. Right there. Okay. The crows only come close when I'm busy and I can't shoot them. So, main highway split this property, like a big, 20 acres here and another 10 on this side with the main highway.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
so
it was
that
like
was
30 or 40 acres for $20,000.
Yeah, it was really good. And I mean, it met all of our criteria, but being right on a main highway.
Yeah.
While that seems nice, I don't want to be...
And the larger area, I think, butted up next to the mountains, so half of it was like up on a mountainside, and there just wasn't enough down lower for us to be able to build, and we didn't want to build on the other side because it was too close to the freeway. Was the problem. Road, I remember that now. Yeah. So, we didn't want to be, close to a highway or a freeway or any of that. Like, it's just, we don't want that. The cost, we budgeted our money, I guess, and just decided what we could afford for a monthly payment. We didn't want it to be a whole lot, but on the other hand, we wanted enough land that, we would be okay with to begin with, and if we want to extend later, fine. But, to start, we wanted more than 2 acres, I think. I think we wanted closer to 3 to 4, but
2 is kind of our minimum, which 2 acre lots out here are pretty common.
Yeah. Financing. So a lot of banks, they will not lend for raw land.
Right.
Which we just kind of knew that from going through our research and stuff. Of course, there is other ways to get that money, not necessarily from a bank, but that payment typically means a little bit more as well. But a lot of places, not a lot of places, I should say, a lot of people, they will do an owner finance land purchase. So what we did was just searched owner financed land for sale. You'll get a ton of websites to go through. We actually went through landmodo.com, landmodo.com. I'm sure he'll put a link on the thing. They can limit it through state, and then you can or filter it through state and then county and that kind of thing, and then just kind of find what you're looking for. What we did at first was we actually found another website. I don't even remember what that other one was because I only found a few parcels of land that was from one specific guy, basically. And that's kind of how we landed on this area that we chose out here. Was I went through and I searched. I just kept on searching. We found one specific parcel that we wanted that was closer to town, and it was actually between two of the larger cities, I guess, towns that are in this county. So it would have been perfect. It was close to the hospital, close to town, but still, far enough out. It also had power within a mile. It was just over 4 acres of land. It kind of overlooked the city as well. It sat up a little bit higher and it overlooked the city and the mountains and stuff. So, I mean, it looked pretty.
But as we got looking, and again, kind of researching using Google Maps, Google Earth.
We didn't get to that point yet. I just kept searching because we were just going to come out to look at that one parcel, and that was it. And then I just kept searching for more land available, and found the landmodo.com website, and then actually found another parcel that was up that way. I don't know, like
just
3 or
over
4
one of the
streets
hills here, yeah.
And then found this one on that same website and just found like tons and tons of information. I mean, there's out closer to Utah, you can get 20, 30, 40 acres for $6,000. But
you're then a little far,
you're over an hour away from town again. So we just didn't want that.
A lot of that would be freeway driving, which is nice, but still.
Yeah, but we just didn't want that. So financing, that kind of stuff, the utility options again, if we wanted it, if we ever wanted an option for power, I guess the first parcel that we were going to look at between the two cities would have been the best one to go to.
And we decided, though, that it wasn't worth the kind of extra.
What we also looked at for land, I guess, was the wildlife in the area. Harmful wildlife, good wildlife, kind of hand in hand with the hunting laws. What we're able to get if we decide that we want to go hunting, what we need to look out for, coyotes being number 1 in this area, probably badgers number 2. Come to find out that, at least not this year, they're not as terrible. We thought we were going to be fighting coyotes off day 1, and we have yet to see a coyote in this area. Now, we've seen them
closer to town.
We
hear
you
them.
And Tia seen them not too far from here. But
and we've heard them up here at night.
Actually seeing them up here, we just haven't seen them.
Yeah.
We also thought, that rattlesnakes were going to be an issue. Honestly, in Idaho with this type of terrain, we've seen them a lot out there. And here it's just they seem to be further out, I guess.
Up into the rocky areas.
Yeah. And it's just not very rocky in this specific part. So that was just a few more things that we looked at for land that we were wanting to get. And that narrowed it down to our land that we essentially ended up buying in Nevada.
So yeah, we found the lot we were most interested in, this one.
Yep, this one specifically, even though we hadn't visited it yet, this was the main one that we were wanting because it was over 6 acres for under $6,000 in an area that was close to town. Schooling was an option. Yeah, we could live completely off grid because our nearest neighbor was a mile away. So, and that nearest neighbor doesn't have power.
Yeah. Well, they got a huge solar system.
So I think we're a mile and a half from the nearest power line. But just even then, they would have to come up and then over and then up and over. There's too much for them to do for us to ever want it, and that's fine. So when we chose the specific parcel of land that we wanted, what I started doing then was looking at the parcel on the county website. I went through the assessor's office and I went through the recorder's office, the county recorder, to see number one, if the property belonged to the guy that was selling it online.
That's a big thing to watch out for.
What we do whenever we see land for sale out here, number one, is we look to see if the ownership history matches up with the person that is selling the property. If it says something else, like a business or something, typically those people will let you know that it's part of this business. Like the one we were looking at was like Buffalo
Property group or something.
Yeah.
Something weird.
And the guy sent me an email that had like that, signature or whatever.
Letterhead, basically.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. So I know that this guy, is legit. We also looked at the type of warranties that they were offering. Well, yeah, I'll get into that, but first I want to go to warranties, because warranties have to do with the liens.
Okay.
So if you're offered a warranty deed, I think it is, that means that they are promising you that there has never been a lien on this property, ever. If they can't offer you that, then you need to be suspicious of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 types of warranties.
Express. That's different.
Maybe I should type like land warranties. Because so there's the general warranty, the limited warranty, and the non-warranty. So the general warranty deed is the one that is promising you that there has been no liens. A limited warranty deed means that they can promise you that there's been no liens during the time that they have owned the property. They don't know about anything prior. They can't tell you anything about that, but what they can tell you is during the time that they owned it, there has been no liens. And then there's a non-warranty deed. The non-warranty deed means that there is no promise at all whatsoever about anything on your property. Nothing. So
avoid that one.
Yeah, don't want that one. So we wanted to make sure that we had just a regular warranty deed on the property that we were getting. We also found that on the county assessor's website and the recorder's website, which came into play with the liens. We wanted to make sure that there was no liens on our property, so that if we decided that we were going to make this property our home, which we did, that's what we wanted, that no one could come and take it from us. That if we ever decide to sell, that we don't get, $2 out of it because someone owed a lien on something else. We also searched for other property owners around the parcels that we were purchasing, because, if we ever want to expand in the future, we can get a hold of them and say, hey, we live out here and we'd like to have, your 2 acres. So, here's our information.
We wanted to make sure too there wasn't like some big developer trying to snatch up parcels here and there out here, because
so this specific area was deemed to be a subdivision in the 1960s. Our 3 parcels of land that we bought was originally purchased in 1963. It was handed down to the wife after the husband died, and then it was handed down to, I'm assuming, one of the kids.
Yeah.
When, the mom was either passing or maybe doing a power of attorney type thing, I'm not sure. And then it was sold from him to the guy that we were purchasing it from. So we found all of that within the ownership history. If you can't find that type of information online, contact the county assessor or recorder and get that information. Mm-hmm. Don't waste your money on a title company search. That's thousands of dollars. You can literally do this all by yourself. You just need to know where to look. And you can even search how to do a title search or whatever on it. And it's easy. Like, it tells you. I've even watched a video. That's how I did my own title search on the property. Imagine that. Another thing that we did a map search and we did a Google Earth search. We did a map search to see exactly where the parcel was, number one, based on the GPS coordinates that were given to us. We also looked at the county website parcel map, and we also did the Google Earth to see what the layout of the land would be, so that we would have an idea
And
if it's
topographical
ever
maps.
going to be, Google Earth.
Actual topographical maps.
Okay. Oh, we
I did
did.
that. Yeah.
Yep, you showed me that. Okay. Yep, that too. We did that.
I wanted to know that my land wasn't just flat and I had some terrain and hills. And,
Right.
Yeah.
So, we did all of that because, according to one of the land listings that we were looking at, it said it had meadow grass. I don't know how the fuck meadow grass would get out here in the middle of the high desert that's full of fucking sagebrush.
Right.
But what I can tell you is that there's no goddamn meadow grass out here. There's not any. None. Not in this area, anyways. Maybe over by the river, there is some. Yep.
A little bit.
Yeah. The ranch you work at
a
has
little
some.
strip of it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's it. We don't have any. We're not close to water. There is a wash. Oh, it's all foggy. There's a washout area that is a creek, but it's dry. It's been dry since we've lived here. It may get wet earlier in the spring, but
The melt off, yeah.
it's dry right now.
Yeah.
So, and it has been, like I said, since we've lived here. So there's no meadow grass. So that's why we searched to make sure.
Back to that family that moved. They fell for that. That's why they were only here a short time. They were expecting meadows and fields
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate the desert terrain. I grew up around this, so I'm good with it. But
if you think that you're going to come out to the desert and have meadow grasses, and a lot of the pictures that they have on some of those postings
are not.
They're not pictures of the specific area.
Right.
A lot of them are honest. A lot of them do tell you that, this was taken here and whatnot. And a lot of it is true. But there's a lot of them as well that are not honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
So do your research. The next thing we did after making, our decision that, yes, this is where I think we want to live. This is, the research that we've done. This is the information that we found. This is the area that looks like it would work the best. We made a visit to the area. We tried to make it to the land the first time in February, but we did not. And we also discovered that our Jeep was not going to be a good option for us out here.
In the winter.
Because our roads are not plowed. Our roads are not taken care of by the county. They're taken care of by us. And if we can't get out because our Jeep doesn't have the clearance, then we're not going to have the Jeep, because I'm not going to pay on a Jeep for 6 months that we can't use for 6 months.
We didn't have a real Jeep, by the way. It was like a Jeep Renegade that's got...
Yeah, it was a little
really
bit
low.
lower. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a...
A real Jeep would have been fine.
Oh, yeah. But...
No.
And then once we made, the visit to the area, we talked to a few of the people that were down at the cafe. Asked them how it was. They've been here for 15, 20 years. A lot of them said that we used to have winters like this every year. A lot of them said that, it's been this way for the last few years. A lot of them said that last winter was mild and this one's just been crazy. So, we kind of got a feel for it. They're talking about rabbits, antelope, deer, which we already knew all that was out here due to our
Kind of
research.
fell in love with the area, though, based off of talking with some of the locals.
Yeah. One of the guys that actually takes care of the roads, he was there at the cafe, so we were able to say, like, hey, he was talking about going and plowing the roads just for donations. If you can afford it, even. Took some water out to a lady that lives pretty far out.
Yep.
Because she was out of water. Didn't have a way to make it out. So, some of that stuff we were able to decide that we wanted to make this property work specifically because we had the ability to talk to people that have lived out here, that have dealt with it, that have, you know, been through the good and the bad, and they're still here. So,
yeah, and just getting a sense of
community already.
community and like the people out here is what everyone kind of sticks to themselves.
But at the same time, if you need help, any one of them will come out and help you immediately.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy that, you know, back in town in Idaho, everybody stuck to themselves and, like, oh, you need help? Sorry, can't help you. That winter that we had in 2016, that was the worst winter that I've ever experienced personally in Idaho. And I don't even know how many people that, you know, we helped push out of the way. I went and cleared, you know, the roads for grandma. I put fucking sand down for people so that they could have some traction. Like, open up the bag out of the fucking, you know, back end of my truck. Like, and people are like, oh, thank you so much. Like, that's what community is all about. Yes, you can stick to yourself and kind of do your own thing, but, you know, sometimes people just need help. And those people that are willing to help, those are the good kind of people.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to surround ourselves with. Not stuck up city people that can't take a minute to push you out of the way because they might be 5 more minutes late for work. Like, who fucking cares? It's a goddamn job. Like,
right.
Your fucking job replacement will be up online before anyone even knows you're dead.
Yeah, that's true. So,
you want pizza?
I do want some pizza. So this is actually